Kia ora, welcome to NZ Money Karma, where you can find freedom from the daily grind through budgeting, simple living and adventure. Thanks so much for joining me. A big thanks to everyone who gives it a thumbs up, likes and subscribes, so thank you so much for that, and hopefully I can keep creating content that you find interesting and want to watch. I'm here today, I'm going to be talking something quite specific about the ways we prevent ourselves from being poor. I know that sounds really crazy, doesn't it? But there are ways, or there are methods that you can use to stop being poor, and we employ them. We've never been poor on paper. You know, we've always looked okay on the spreadsheet. There were periods of time where we actually were very poor, where we really didn't have $2 to rub together, and that was because we had overburdened ourselves with debt. We had bought too many houses, and the market we assumed was going to keep going up, and then it went down. And that put us in negative equity, and that put all our plans on hold for the future, and it kind of stopped us moving to the next level of our plan, which, had we already got there, would have made our life a lot easier. So I guess we spent about 10 years living, you know, a period of time where we were genuinely poor, where we just couldn't wriggle. We had no wriggle room at all in our budget. Every single cent went to maintaining those mortgages, so we didn't go under. And then we had a period of years where we were just working really hard to get out of the mess that we had created. And so whilst we weren't poor in cash per se, we still lived like we were very poor, because all that extra cash went to fixing up this mortgage mistake that we had made. So we've come out the other side, and there are heaps of different things that we do today that stopped us being poor, and hopefully some of you might find, you know, some ideas amongst us. And this is just what worked for us, so I'm not saying this will work for you per se, and every person's different. You know, I have a lot of things stacked in my favour. My husband and I had a lot of things stacked in our favour that helped us to be able to get out of the pickle that we were in. And I know not everybody has those same things on their side. So take what you will from this and leave behind what doesn't serve you. I'm going to chuck out my ideas, and leave a note in the comments below and let me know what you think. Some of them might surprise you, some of them might kind of gross you out. Let's wait and see. The first thing I'm going to talk about is replacing the disposable with the permanent. So what I mean by that is, like, just use your money once. So instead of buying, I've got a whole stack of examples here on the chair next door to me, and I will start with the ones that are closest to hand. So here are some napkin, well, here's a napkin. I have a set of 6 of these. I sewed these 4 years ago. I actually sewed them at Christmas time when we first moved to this house, because I just felt like doing a change. You know, you get into a new house and you want to kind of make things your own. So I sewed these for Christmas, and I sewed some placemats. But these aren't saved just for Christmas, it's just for that 1 year. I'm not an amazing sewer, so it's all really basic, and if you are a really amazing sewer, please don't judge my corners and stuff. I know they're not right. I couldn't figure out how to make them perfect. But this means we never have to buy, we never ever buy disposable napkins. I have this set that I made. I have a set from 27 years ago that we got given as a wedding present. They're really good cotton, and they are still fine. They're a little bit marked, so they're not like the good ones, but we use them all the time. And then I have another set that I bought at a secondhand shop that were really cute. They were homemade, and they had like little embroidery things on each corner, and there was a ton of those, but over the years they've kind of disappeared. I don't know where they've all gone, so I just have maybe 3 or 4 of those. So if we have people around and we were having finger food, we would just do like our normal plates, our bread and butter plates, and cloth napkins. If we're having dinner and we need napkins, I don't set the table every night with a napkin. This might be one of the things that grosses you out, but you know, my kids would just wipe their hands sometimes on a tea towel. So I don't use them all the time, but when we do need a napkin, I never go out and buy paper napkins that just get chucked away. And this is a dishcloth. It's obviously a clean one because it's all dry. This here is 2 years old. I knitted this when we were on holiday. We were doing a backpacking trip for 4 months through Southeast Asia, and I just wanted to try out different knitting patterns, so I bought these little tiny balls of cotton and some little knitting needles and just tried out different patterns, and I would kind of do one and then pull it apart, and I had maybe 4 or 5 of these, and that was 2 Christmases ago. So we're just over 2 years now of using them, and they're still going. I have just started to knit some new ones because a couple of them have started to get holes, but that's pretty good. So I've made a permanent dishcloth. I remember the cost of the balls of cotton were $3. So one of these cost $3 and they've lasted me 2 years. I think that's pretty good going. And you could make them for all sorts of other things. That could be a face cloth, that could be a cleaning cloth, or it can be a dishcloth like I'm using it for. Hankies. Again, I've just made these myself. I found this material in a second-hand shop and I thought, oh, that's thin enough to make hankies. My mum used to make hankies out of old clothing. I remember for a long time we used to have hankies that were made out of our old cloth nappies. So yeah, I found that and I made hankies. And I know post-COVID people feel a bit funny about hankies, and in some cultures people generally just think hankies are really gross. I kind of like them. I mean, it's not like you're going to be touching snot. I don't know how to say that better. Nasal mucus. It's not like you'll be touching nasal mucus. You're going to pick a new spot on your hanky, and if you're blowing your nose that often, you're going to bring more than one hanky with you, aren't you? So I would rather use a hanky that's washed than disposable tissues that are chucked away. So we use hankies. So I don't buy boxes of tissues because I've made so many of these. There's like a stack in our bathroom, probably about this high. So no one ever needs to use anything that's not a hanky. Talking about the bathroom, I'm going to show you something else, and be prepared. This might not be your thing. Family cloth. What is family cloth? Well, family cloth is like what people can use instead of toilet paper. And not everyone in my family will use this. They used to, but you know, kids grow up and they decide that they think it's a bit gross. That's okay. This is what generally I would suggest the people in our house use if they're doing number ones. Number twos, toilet paper. Number ones, family cloth. Goes into a bucket and has a separate wash and gets sun dried. I'm not going to put that on my table because that is a, below the belt kind of a product. All clean, obviously. And then lastly, I'm just going to show you another thing. I'm sure there are lots of other things we do that save us money that are permanent rather than disposable, but these are the ones I could think of this morning. Seasonal decorations. So rather than buying something, I don't know, like from Spotlight that just gets put up and then gets put away or chucked out, and it's new all the time, we just have the same things that come out for the season. So I didn't actually make this quilted runner, but this goes on our table and it says Merry Christmas. I don't know if you can read that. That's the side I like the best, but it does also have this other Christmassy side. We use this table runner at Christmas time. So this signifies that we're in the season of Christmas because this will come out and go on our table. This bunting, for example, this signifies the season of spring. When it's spring, I hang up this bunting each year. So nothing, it's nothing tricky, it's nothing expensive. This was probably about $1 at a second-hand shop, and I made this about 10 years ago, so I can't even remember how much that would be. But it's a few dollars, but it's a seasonal decoration, and it means that each year you don't have to keep coming out and buying the same things over and over again that you then chuck out over and over again. So that's number one. Replacing disposable things with permanent products. Okay, we've just come for a bit of a wander around my house. I'm moving from room to room, just having a think, what else do we do that stops us being poor? And the second thing is buy second hand. This is just an example of things that I've bought second hand. You can see there's some pink Cons shoes there. I've got this, so those were $5, I remember, $5. What is this? Freer. I don't know what that is. But anyway, it's a cool skirt. It's got big pockets, kind of in at the waist and out. Really like it. That was a couple of bucks. This dress, again, I don't know exactly, if it's a good label or not. That's not what I was interested in. It's a very cute little dress. Looks nice on. Again, a couple of bucks. I bought that for a work do. And my laptop. Also bought secondhand. So the difference in price between buying new and buying secondhand is huge. It's also really bad for the environment, but I'm not here to focus on that. I'm here to focus on how to stop being poor. Buying secondhand is the way to go. Other things we buy secondhand, books. Oh my goodness. Let me show you some books. So just looking here at some of the books that are on our bookshelf, I would say of the shelf, there's probably 2 new books that I can see. Everything else is secondhand. And if you're in a different country other than New Zealand, buying a new book might not be a big deal. But in New Zealand, books are so expensive. Let me just grab you one of these little Twilight books. Does it say on the back how much it would be? Oh, sometimes they have recommended retail, don't they? Okay, I'll tell you, for example, here's a Lonely Planet guide. We bought this one new. The UK, it's recommended to be 16 quid. In New Zealand, that was $40. Hopefully you can see that. So that's a big difference, right? It's a whole heap of money for a book that is actually new. But then, for example, this one, I found at a secondhand shop. So USA, $24.99. UK, $15.99. I got that for $1 at a secondhand shop. So massive difference, like $39 a book difference between something secondhand and something new. Crazy. Never buy a new book. I very rarely, I have to really, really, really want a new book. I buy lots of these kinds of Lonely Planet books about New Zealand if I can find them at secondhand shops, because I have daydreams of having an Airbnb one day and I want to put them in there. So there you go. Come to my house, there's lots of guidebooks all about New Zealand. And it's in every area of our house. Whenever I can get something secondhand, I definitely get it secondhand. So not just clothes, books, shoes, if I can find kitchen equipment, if I can find a vase, whatever I'm looking for, I'm always going for secondhand. The third thing that we do to not be poor is to do as much for ourselves as we can. So we don't outsource anything that we could possibly do ourselves. We wouldn't get someone in to mow the lawns. We won't get someone in to paint the house. That's stuff we can do. We're not builders, so I couldn't build the house. But once the boards are on the wall, I can certainly go and buy the paint and a paintbrush. Am I as good as a professional painter? Definitely not. But am I good enough? Absolutely. And that's the same with lots of things I do. I sew. Am I a great sewer? This is my sewing machine here. I'm an okay sewer. I'm a good enough sewer. I'm not perfect though. I'm never going to get a job as a dressmaker, but I'm completely adequate to kind of do the job. Here's another thing we do for ourselves, home haircuts. Now, I don't know about you, but this is one area. Sorry, I'm just getting comfy there. Hopefully you can hear me because the washing machine is going in the background. One area where I reckon you can save so much money is home haircuts. Haircuts in New Zealand are so expensive. A girl at work the other day, she was saying she was going to go and get a trim, just a straight across the bottom trim, and it was going to be $85. I was like, don't do that. I'll cut your hair. And she let me. And she was really happy. It was good. So this is another way. So I cut my daughter's hair. I've got some proper scissors. These are the new hair clippers that we bought with our leftover challenge money from last year. Now, I can't remember how much they were, but they were expensive. Like, they're not cheap. Yeah, this set here is not cheap. It was, a good few $100s. But it should last an extremely long time. So yeah, that's the next thing we do. Do things for yourself. I'll take you out to the garage. We don't have tons of tools, but we have a few things. And out into the garage we go. So I've got, this is my little toolkit. I actually got this as a present from my dad some years ago. The scissors are inside because I use them for sewing. A few things have been lost over the years or broken, but for the most part, this is what I use. It's out because I've just been working on my bike yesterday, and I needed the Allen keys. I replaced the seat on my bike and put on new brake pads. So I'll show you. Here's my, oh, you can't see. There you go, there's some new brake pads. And there's a nice new seat. It's all jelly, so it's way more comfortable than the old seat. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Just, I hadn't done that before, but I thought I can do it. I'm capable. I can read some instructions, so just do it. There's our paints. You know, we paint our house. We've recently painted our house. We have an old weatherboard house, so I treat it for borer. Each year new borer holes come out and I spray this borer stuff inside it and then, you know, fill it in and then paint over it. That kind of stuff. So whatever you can do, if you do it for yourself, is going to be a whole heap less. There's my old seat that I replaced. It's going to be a whole heap less than it is if you get someone else to do it for you. So just have a go. What could go wrong? Have a go within reason. I have definitely seen a few DIY projects that, yeah, the person should have just paid for it. The fourth thing we do that stops us from being poor is making the most of what we have. So that can sometimes be making the most of our skill set in our job situations, but also making the most of what we have around the house. So you see there's a whole lot of paper pulp. I'm getting ready to make paper bricks, rosemary cuttings. These are hollyhock seedlings that grew in a space where I didn't need them. So I've, you know, pulled them out and repotted them. I've got cuttings growing. Make the most of what you have. If you've got something that you can use, just in case you hadn't watched my day in the life video, you won't know what on earth I'm talking about with paper bricks. But these are them. So I use a little machine. There it is. I take those old papers and we rip them up into tiny bits, make it into pulp, and then use a little hand-cranked machine to make bricks. And they can be used to burn over winter in conjunction with wood. They last about a good few hours, and I thought they'll be enough to keep the fire going overnight. So yeah, just making the most of what we have. We have lots of old papers. I thought, what can I do that's actually productive and useful? And that's what I came up with. Let's jump inside and we'll have a look. What else are we making the most of? So I've just jumped inside and we're having a look now at the inside thing. So we're making the most of what we have. What have we got? Well, this here is my husband's old pajama pants. And I have never really knitted with fabric like that, but I thought, oh, could I make something out of it? I don't know if it's actually going to work. It could just be a waste of my time. I had originally thought I wanted to try and make a rag rug, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I thought, what if I just knit it up? You know, once I'm done, I'll poke all those bits through. Could that be used for something? And I thought maybe it could be like for a placemat for pots or something if you're going to put them on the dinner table. I don't know. It's just an idea, but I thought I'll make the most of what I have. And here, this is just my little fabric stash. I try and waste no fabric. So here is elastic. This is off my daughter's old knickers, little kid knickers. I thought that can be useful in the garden. It can also be useful, I would chop that up and make it into something that looks like that to put around containers if we were travelling with lunch boxes and we wanted to make sure the lid didn't come off. Here's all my little, I've never made a quilt and I'm not a quilter per se, but I would like to give it a go. So I went through all the scraps that I had. Nothing was big enough to kind of make a thing with it. And I just cut it up into squares. I've got a bit of an old pillowcase on the back. And started making things in colours. So I've got kind of a greeny blue thing going on, a pink thing going on, and a yellow one going on. And in amongst those, sorry, can you see them? There you go. And I will eventually accumulate enough pink, greeny, blue and yellow, because I often buy things in the fabric in those colours. Those are the colours I like. to make something, whether or not it's just a quilted cushion, or if I get, over the course of my lifetime, maybe some blankets, I don't know. But I just thought, don't waste anything. And if something was too small to go on here and make up one of those, I just add it to the dog's bed and just use it as stuffing for the dog's bed. So his bed is made up of some sewn up pillowcases. It's got some sheep's wool and stuff like that inside it, and I just stuff in a little bit of extra material every time I have spare. So that's how we make the most of what we have. The next thing we do to stop being poor is ensure that we budget. Now, this channel, if you've tuned in, you'll see tons and tons of budgeting videos, so it won't be news to you. If you're watching this for the very first time, though, you might think, I don't even know what you're talking about. So we do what's called a zero-sum budget, and we cash stuff. So all our money goes into cash envelopes, and that is all we use. Or they go into virtual cash envelopes online for various long-term expenses. So things like house maintenance, or the rates, or kids' school fees. That's all going into a bank account. We're taking how much it's going to cost, and then we're dividing it depending on how often our pay is. So we might be dividing it by 26 if we get paid fortnightly, or this year we're trying to live on a quarterly budget, so we've divided the amount we'll need by 4. So for example, if something costs $1,000 and we know in a year we're going to need $1,000, we're going to say we need to put away $250 per quarter. But we're going to take the entire amount that we have available to us for that quarter, which for us is $10,000. We spend $10,000 every 3 months for all our needs and all our savings and all our sinking funds. Everything else is into investments. So with that $10,000, we're spending every cent of it. We are doing a zero-sum budget. So I'm going, with that $1,000, okay, I need to put away $527 per quarter to pay our insurance. I need to put away $500 to pay for our bills, that kind of stuff. So I'm putting that all away, and we're doing that until there's no money left out of the $10,000. And if once all our needs are met and we start working on our wants, and all our wants were met, and we had, say, $6 left over, I would allocate that $6 into a sinking fund or into a wanting fund. Whatever it is, there will be zero left on the piece of paper on the spreadsheet when we're finished. So a zero-sum budget, and sticking to the budget, obviously, not just writing it, you've got to do it. That is one way we stop ourselves from being poor. I wanted to do this video outside because really the biggest tip I have, the biggest thing we did that stopped us from being poor, is to get rid of the debt on the house and pay off that mortgage. If you've got a mortgage, I would say the one thing that you can do to free yourself from the burden, free yourself from any kind of fear you ever have about living in poverty, is to get rid of the mortgage. And you can do that heaps of different ways. You can check out my 2 videos about how we paid off our mortgage. But some ways, what I would do right today, if I still had a mortgage on this particular house, is I would sell it and I would move to somewhere where I could buy a cheaper house. I know it sounds drastic, but I would free myself instantly. I do not think the kind of world we're living in at the moment is one that lends itself to big risks. And I would do anything to get myself free from that burden that was the mortgage. If you're not from New Zealand, houses are extremely expensive. So our house is, a very modest house. We don't aspire to have a fancier house. We're really happy with the house we have. And even if we did move, we'd be moving to a similar kind of house. So don't buy more house than you need. That's one thing. Our house is a 3-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, 1 lounge, 1 dining room kitchen, and it does have an extra toilet. But that's more than adequate for us. Families, it's a very old house, families that would have lived here in the past would have had way more than 4 people living in it, and they still managed to make it happen. So that would be my number 1 top tip. Do whatever you can to get out of debt on your house. Free yourself from that burden. I will link my videos below. I won't go into the details of how to do that because I've already done that in 2 quite in-depth videos. I hope you guys have a cracking week and that there's been something for you amongst those tips. Bye for now.